My name is Cassie Vance. I'm 28. Last Saturday at 7:43 p.m., my sister Malene threw an entire glass of ice water in my face at our father's 65th birthday party because I asked why my name wasn't on the toast list. The water hit me so hard, I tasted copper. Ice cubes slid down inside my collar. Champagne glasses froze mid-air at the surrounding tables. 37 relatives and family friends went completely silent. My father's backyard in Alexandria, white colonial, pristine lawn, catered buffet for $8,000, turned into a courtroom. "You're unbelievable," Malene said. She was wearing Valentino. Her diamond tennis bracelet caught the string lights. "You show up here in that—" She gestured at my clothes like they were contaminated. "And you have the audacity to ask why you're not important enough to speak?" I was wearing Target clearance, $14.99 blouse. My hands were shaking, but I kept them at my sides. "Malene," I said quietly, "I just asked. This table is for people who actually achieve something." She turned to the crowd. Her voice went louder, performative. "My sister works in a warehouse. She counts boxes. That's her career. Meanwhile, Julian and I just closed a $2.3 million contract with the Department of Defense. But sure, Cassie, tell everyone about your very important inventory spreadsheets." Julian stood behind her, tall, military haircut, hand on her shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. His expression said everything. "Stay down." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. My father stepped forward. Colonel Richard Vance, retired, still walked like he was inspecting troops. "Cassie." His voice was flat. Final. "Apologize to your sister. You've embarrassed her in front of our guests." The water was still dripping off my chin. Someone handed me a napkin. I took it. "I apologize," I said. "I always apologize." Malene smiled, turned back to the party, raised her champagne glass. "Now, as I was saying before the interruption, Dad, this toast is for you." I left through the side gate at 7:51 p.m. Nobody followed me. Let me take you back 11 years to when I was 17 and my grandmother was still alive. Gran's house smelled like lavender soap and old books. She lived in a craftsman bungalow on Hawthorne Street with a porch swing that squeaked and a garden full of white roses. That summer before my senior year, I'd bike there every Thursday after school. "Little Shadow," she called me. Not because I was quiet, I wasn't back then, but because I followed her everywhere. Kitchen, garden, grocery store. She'd let me drive her Buick even though I only had a permit. One Thursday in August, we were sitting on that porch swing. She was drinking iced tea. I was eating strawberries from her garden. "Your father called me today," she said. I remember the exact way she said it. Careful, like she was diffusing something. "He wants me to put the trust in Malene's name. Says she'll manage it better. Says you're too young to handle that kind of responsibility." The trust was $340,000. Gran's late husband had been a patent attorney. When he died, he'd left her everything. When she got sick 2 years later, stage 3 ovarian cancer, she'd set up the trust. Split evenly, half to Malene, half to me, accessible at age 25. "What did you tell him?" I asked. Gran looked at me. Really looked at me. Her eyes were still sharp even though the chemo had taken her hair. "I told him no. I told him the trust stays exactly as written. I told him that you, Cassie Elizabeth Vance, are going to do something extraordinary, and when that day comes, you're going to need that money to be yours. Not your sister's, not your father's, yours." She took my hand. Her skin was thin, cool. "I will always find you, little Shadow. Even when I'm gone, I promise." Gran died 4 months later. December 18th, 11:14 a.m., at Georgetown Hospital. I was holding her hand. Malene showed up an hour after she was already gone. At the funeral, my father pulled me aside. "The trust," he said. Gran was confused at the end. The medication. She didn't understand what she was signing. Malene's going to contest it. Gran wasn't confused, I said. Don't make this difficult. But I didn't have to make it difficult. The attorney, Gran's attorney, a man named Howard Lipinski, called both of us into his office 2 weeks later. Read the will, read the trust documents. Everything was ironclad. Half to Malene, age 25. Half to Cassie, age 25. Malene walked out without speaking to me. I didn't access the money when I turned 25. I was working full-time at a logistics company, Carter Supply Chain Solutions, $38,000 a year salary, health benefits, nothing glamorous. I had a studio apartment in Arlington for $1,100 a month. I didn't need Gran's money yet. I told myself I was saving it. For something important. For the right time. I didn't know Malene was already planning how to take it. The first betrayal came 3 months after Dad's birthday party. I was at work, Tuesday, 2:47 p.m., in the middle of reconciling a shipping manifest, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Vance? This is Patricia Hendricks from First Union Bank. I'm calling about your account. My stomach dropped. We've received a request to freeze your accounts pending a mental competency evaluation. The request came from your father, Colonel Richard Vance, with supporting documentation from your sister, Malene Vance Mercer. They've filed paperwork indicating you've been exhibiting erratic behavior and may be a danger to yourself financially. The room tilted. What? There's a court hearing scheduled for November 12th. You'll need to appear with legal representation. In the meantime, your accounts are temporarily restricted. I had $3,847 in checking, $340,000 in the trust, still untouched. All of it frozen. I called my father immediately. Dad, what is this? Mental competency? I'm not... Cassie. His voice was tired, disappointed. Malene's been worried about you. We both have. You're 28 years old, living alone, no relationships, working a dead-end job. You threw a scene at my birthday party. You've been increasingly unstable. I asked about the toast list. You embarrassed your sister in public. That's not rational behavior. Dad, please. This is my money. Gran left it to me. If you're competent, the court will agree. But we have documentation, Cassie. Incidents going back years. It's for your own protection. He hung up. I sat at my desk for 42 minutes. My supervisor, Karen, finally asked if I was okay. I told her I had food poisoning. Left early. That night, I found out Malene had already started the rumor campaign. My cousin posted on Facebook, praying for the Vance family during this difficult time. Mental health matters. 12 comments. All sympathetic. All directed at Malene. My aunt texted me. Honey, if you need help, please reach out. We love you. I hadn't spoken to my aunt in 2 years. I tried calling Malene. Straight to voicemail. I tried calling Julian. He answered. Cassie, this isn't personal. Your sister loves you. We're doing this because we care. You're stealing from me. We're protecting you. There's a difference. Julian, please, get a lawyer. Come to court. Prove you're stable. That's all you have to do. He hung up. I hired a lawyer with money I didn't have. Margaret Chen, family law attorney, $350 an hour, payment plan available. She reviewed the paperwork Malene and my father had submitted. They have witness statements, Margaret said. We were sitting in her office on K Street. Your father claims you've had angry outbursts. Your sister claims you've made concerning statements about not wanting to live anymore. A former coworker claims you were fired for erratic behavior. I was never fired. I quit that job to take a better one. Do you have proof? I had a resignation letter, dated, signed by my old supervisor. That helps, Margaret said. But they have 3 witnesses. We need more than a letter. The hearing was in 6 days. I went to work every morning at Carter Supply, logged inventory, reconciled shipments, smiled at Karen when she asked how I was doing. At night, I sat in my apartment and read through every document Margaret had given me. Malene's statement was 4 pages long. Detailed. Specific. Cassie has exhibited signs of paranoia, claiming that family members are conspiring against her. She has isolated herself from all relatives and refuses to attend family functions. On multiple occasions, she has made statements indicating she feels her life has no purpose. I read it 3 times. Then I found the date. The incident she referenced, the one where I allegedly said my life had no purpose, was dated March 15th at 3 p.m. The location was listed as Family Lunch at Maggiano's in Tyson's Corner. I pulled up my phone, scrolled back to March 15th. I was at work. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Overtime shift. I had the punch card. I had the badge swipe records. I called Margaret immediately. They fabricated it, I said. I wasn't even in Tyson's Corner. I was at the warehouse in Springfield. I have proof. Margaret was quiet for 3 seconds. Send me everything. Badge swipes, punch cards, supervisor confirmation. If they lied about one date, we can question all of them. The hearing was November 12th at 9 a.m., Arlington County Courthouse. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. Malene wore navy Armani. Julian sat beside her in his dress uniform, Army captain, multiple ribbons. My father sat behind them, stone-faced. I wore a $89 suit from Macy's. Margaret sat beside me with 3 folders of evidence. Judge Morrison reviewed the petition, reviewed our response, looked at Malene. Mrs. Vance Mercer, you claim your sister made concerning statements on March 15th at a family lunch. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. She seemed deeply depressed. She said she didn't see the point anymore. And you were present at this lunch? Yes, Your Honor. My husband and I both were. Margaret stood. Your Honor, we'd like to submit Miss Vance's employment records for March 15th. She was working a 12-hour shift in Springfield, Virginia. Badge swipe records confirm she entered the facility at 5:52 a.m. and exited at 6:14 p.m. She could not have been at a lunch in Tyson's Corner at 3 p.m. The courtroom went very still. Judge Morrison looked at Malene. Do you have a response? Malene's face didn't change. I may have confused the date. It could have been the 16th. Your written statement specifies the 15th. It includes the time, location, and specific quotes. Then I was mistaken about the date. The incident still happened. Margaret submitted more records. March 16th. I was at a dentist appointment at 2:30 p.m., confirmed by Dr. Raymond So's office. March 17th. I was homesick with documented flu symptoms, email to my supervisor included. Judge Morrison dismissed the petition at 10:47 a.m. My accounts were unfrozen. Malene walked past me without looking. Julian followed. My father stopped. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. We were trying to help you. Then he left too. I stood in that hallway for a long time. Margaret touched my shoulder. You won, she said. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt like I'd survived. That was when I knew they weren't going to stop. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call at work. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, military-grade, neutral. Miss Vance, this is Officer West. I'm calling regarding an application you submitted. Are you in a position to speak privately? I stepped outside. It was 47 degrees, gray November sky. I didn't submit an application for anything. The application for the task force position, logistics specialist with security clearance upgrade pathway. You submitted it through the referral program 8 months ago. I had submitted it. I'd almost forgotten. A former supervisor had recommended me for a federal logistics position, something vague about supply chain oversight for military procurement. I'd filled out 40 pages of paperwork, done a background check, and never heard back. We'd like to interview you. Tomorrow, 1400 hours, location to be provided at 0900 tomorrow morning. Bring 2 forms of ID and your SF-86 confirmation number. This is not optional. The line went dead. The interview was in a building with no sign. Northwest DC, concrete facade, guard station, metal detectors. I was escorted to a windowless room with a table, 2 chairs, and a camera in the corner. Officer West was exactly what I expected. late 40s, gray suit, the kind of face that gave away nothing. Miss Vance, your background check came back clean. Your employment history shows reliability. Your supervisor at Carter Supply gave a glowing reference. You have no criminal record, no debt issues, no foreign contacts. Okay? You also recently defended yourself against a fraudulent mental competency petition filed by immediate family members. Is that correct? My throat went dry. Yes. Tell me about that. I told him. The whole thing. The fabricated statements, the frozen accounts, the hearing. West listened without interrupting. When I finished, he made one note. Your sister's husband, Julian Mercer, Army Captain, Procurement Division stationed at Fort Belvoir. Is that correct? Yes. West stood. We'll be in touch. 3 days later, I got the offer. Not logistics specialist. Squad commander, task force procurement oversight, level 6 security clearance, $94,000 annual salary, immediate start. I accepted. I didn't tell anyone. The job wasn't counting boxes, it was hunting ghosts. My squad monitored federal supply chains for discrepancies, missing shipments, rerouted cargo, restricted technology that disappeared in transit. We had access to procurement databases, financial records, real-time tracking systems. If something was supposed to be in Warehouse B and ended up in Warehouse Q, we found out why. My cover story stayed the same. Logistics specialist, Carter Supply, nothing special. My real life became classified. I worked in a SCIF, sensitive compartmented information facility, with reinforced walls and no windows. I wore civilian clothes during the day, kept my military ID in a locked drawer. When I went home to my $1,100 apartment, I was still just Cassie who counted boxes. But at work, I was Squad Commander Vance. And 6 weeks into the job, my system flagged Julian Mercer's name. It was a Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. I was running an audit on navigation components, restricted tech, export controlled, serial numbered. 3 units were marked lost in transit between Fort Belvoir and a contractor facility in Norfolk. The authorizing officer, Captain Julian Mercer. I pulled the full file. Over 18 months, Julian had authorized 47 shipments of restricted components. 12 were marked lost in transit. 7 were rerouted to secondary facilities. 4 were listed as damaged and disposed of. Total value, $1.8 million in missing technology. I called West at midnight. I need permission to expand the audit. Granted. How deep? Financial records, his wife's business accounts, shell company cross-reference. You're looking at your brother-in-law. I'm looking at a supply chain discrepancy. West was quiet for 5 seconds. Permission granted. Report weekly. Do not make contact with the subject. I didn't sleep that night. The evidence built slowly. Maline's company, Mercer Consulting Solutions, had 17 clients. 14 were shell companies. The money flowed in structured deposits, $9,800, $9,400, $9,900. Always just under the $10,000 federal reporting threshold. The navigation components that went missing? They were turning up on the black market. 2 units were intercepted in Dubai, 1 in Singapore. Julian was selling restricted military technology. Maline was laundering the money. And they'd tried to have me declared mentally incompetent to seize my trust fund because they needed $340,000 to cover the gaps. I documented everything: transaction logs, shipping manifests, serial numbers, voice recordings from procurement meetings where Julian authorized reroutes. On February 8th, I found the final piece. It was a voicemail, Maline to Julian, recorded on Julian's work phone during a procurement facility inspection 3 months ago. Our system archives all calls made from federal facilities. Maline's voice crystal clear. The lawyer says we need medical documentation to make the incompetency claim stick. Can you get someone at Walter Reed to write that she's unstable? We need this done before she touches the trust money. Julian's response. I'll handle it. We just need her out of the way for 6 months. Once we access the $340,000, we can cover the shortfall and close the Dubai contracts. I listened to it 4 times. Then I saved it to an encrypted drive. Then I called West. I have enough for an arrest. Not yet. We need the full network. Every client, every shell company, every buyer. If we move now, we get 2 people. If we wait, we get the entire operation. How long? 60 days? Maybe 90? Can you stay quiet that long? I thought about Gran, about her porch swing, about her voice saying, I will always find you, little shadow. I can wait. I waited 104 days. During that time, Malene called me twice, both times to ask if I was feeling better and whether I'd considered therapy. My father sent me a birthday card with no money inside, just a note. Hope you're doing well. Love, Dad. I went to work every day, logged evidence every night, watched Julian's shipment authorizations, watched Malene's deposits. And on May 20th, West called. We're moving. Friday night. Pentagon reception for decorated veterans, active duty officers, congressional liaisons. Your father's invited. Julian's invited. We need you there in full dress uniform. I don't have a dress uniform. Yes, you do. Check your apartment. It was delivered this morning. The uniform was in a garment bag outside my door. Class A, tailored, nameplate reading Vance, rank insignia, ribbons I'd earned in classified operations. I'd never worn it in public. Friday was May 24th. The reception was at the Hall of Heroes Pentagon, 1900 hours. Vaulted ceilings, American flags, 1,000 people in dress uniforms and evening gowns. I arrived at 1847 hours, checked in with my military ID. The guard's eyes widened slightly when he saw my clearance level, but he said nothing. I found my assigned table. West was already there, along with 4 other members of my task force, all in civilian clothes except me. They don't know you're coming, West said quietly. Your father thinks this is a routine event. Julian's here for a procurement contract signing. Malene's his +1. Where are they? Table 12, 3 o'clock. I didn't look. At 1915 hours, the program started. Speeches, awards. I sat perfectly still. At 1943 hours, I saw my father. He was wearing his old colonel's uniform, perfectly pressed, walking toward the stage to receive a lifetime service commendation. He passed within 6 feet of my table. He didn't recognize me. Julian and Malene were at table 12, exactly where West said. Malene wore champagne-colored silk. Julian's uniform was spotless. Neither of them looked in my direction. At 2014 hours, the program paused for networking. People stood, moved between tables. I stayed seated. Julian saw me first. He stopped mid-conversation. His face went completely blank. Then he leaned down, whispered something to Malene. Malene turned. Our eyes met across 30 feet and 1,000 people. She stood, smoothed her dress, walked toward me with Julian 2 steps behind. I didn't move. She stopped at my table, looked at my uniform, looked at my ribbons, looked at my nameplate. Cassie? Her voice was uncertain. Why are you in uniform? Good evening, Malene. You said you worked in logistics. You said you counted boxes. I do work in logistics. Julian's jaw was tight. Cassie, what is this? Wes stood. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't have to. Captain Mercer, Mrs. Vance Mercer, please remain here. Federal agents will need to speak with you shortly. Malene's face drained of color. Federal agents? For what? I finally stood. The room was watching now. Conversations had stopped at neighboring tables. A general 2 tables over was staring. West raised his hand. A signal. The screens, 4 of them, mounted throughout the hall for the presentation, flickered. Then they showed Julian's procurement records, shipment authorizations, serial numbers, lost in transit reports. Then they showed Malene's company, the shell accounts, the structured deposits. Then they played the audio. Malene's voice crackling through the speaker system. Can you get someone at Walter Reed to write that she's unstable? We need this done before she touches the trust money. Julian's voice. Once we access the $340,000, we can cover the shortfall and close the Dubai contracts. The room was completely silent. Maline's hands were shaking. That's not. It's a recording from your husband's federal facility phone line, Wes said calmly. Archived per standard protocol, along with 18 months of procurement fraud, technology diversion to foreign buyers, and money laundering through 14 shell companies. Julian didn't speak. His face had gone gray. My father appeared. He pushed through the crowd, still wearing his commendation medal. What the hell is going on? Wes turned. Colonel Vance, your son-in-law is under arrest for federal crimes. Your daughter Maline is also implicated. We have warrants. This is insane. Julian's a decorated officer. Maline runs a legitimate consulting firm. Sir, we have documented evidence of $1.8 million in diverted military technology and $940,000 in laundered proceeds. My father's eyes found me, really saw me for the first time. Cassie, you're part of this? I'm Squad Commander Vance, I said quietly. Task Force Procurement Oversight. I've been investigating this case for 104 days. He stared at me like I was a stranger. You reported your own family? I reported a supply chain discrepancy. The evidence led to Julian. The financial records led to Maline. The voicemail where they planned to steal my inheritance and frame me as mentally incompetent, that was just confirmation. Maline started crying. Real tears running down her face, mascara streaking. Daddy, please, I didn't mean. My father looked at her, then at Julian, then at the screens still showing their crimes in detail. How much did you take, he asked her. She didn't answer. How much, Maline? Almost 2 million, Julian said. His voice was flat, dead. We needed capital. The Dubai contracts were going to triple it. We were going to pay it all back. By stealing from your sister? She wasn't using the money. Maline's voice rose, desperate. It was just sitting there. Gran left her $340,000 and she didn't even touch it. She was wasting it. So you tried to have her declared incompetent. We were trying to protect the family. If this came out, if the investigation reached us, we needed resources for lawyers, for... You were trying to steal from your sister to cover up your own crimes. Maline's face crumpled. Federal agents appeared, 4 of them moving through the crowd with calm efficiency. Captain Julian Mercer, you're under arrest for theft of government property, illegal export of restricted technology, and money laundering. They read him his rights, handcuffed him. His uniform looked obscene with the cuffs. Mrs. Maline Vance Mercer, you're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy, and wire fraud. Maline collapsed, actually fell to her knees. 2 agents lifted her gently, cuffed her, walked her toward the exit. She was sobbing, repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Not to me, to our father. My father stood frozen. The entire room was watching, 1,000 people witnessing his golden child being arrested. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Wes touched my shoulder. Well done, Commander. I nodded. My father turned to me. His face was unreadable. Did you know? He asked. When you came to my birthday party? When Maline threw water on you? Did you already know what they were doing? No, I found out later. And you said nothing. I was gathering evidence. That's my job. He looked at me for a long time, then he walked away without another word. I stayed at the reception for another hour, shook hands with generals who congratulated me on the case, accepted quiet praise from West, watched the crowd slowly return to normal conversation. At 21:47 hours, I left. I drove to Hawthorne Street, parked outside Gran's old house. It had been sold years ago. New family, new paint. The roses were gone. I sat in my car and cried for 20 minutes. Then I went home. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. Cousins, aunts, uncles, people I hadn't spoken to in years. One voicemail from my father. Cassie, call me. We need to talk about your grandmother's estate. There are complications. I deleted it. Margaret Chen called at 10:15 a.m. Cassie, I've been contacted by your father's attorney. He's disputing the trust again. Claims your grandmother was unduly influenced when she wrote it. Claims Malene should receive full control of the remaining assets given your... He used the word vendetta. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. He's actually doing this? He filed this morning. Tell him I have a recording of Malene and Julian planning to steal the trust fund to cover up federal crimes. Tell him that recording is now federal evidence. Tell him if he wants to dispute Gran's wishes in court, I'll be happy to bring transcripts. Margaret was quiet. Then, I'll let him know. He withdrew the dispute by the end of the day. 3 weeks later, I received a package. It was from Howard Lipinski, Gran's attorney. I'd forgotten he existed. Inside was a letter. The paper was thick, expensive. The handwriting was Gran's, shaky from the chemo, but unmistakably hers. I sat on my apartment floor and read it. My dearest little shadow, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father has already tried to take what I left you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him while I was alive. I tried, but Richard doesn't hear love. He only hears documents. Do you remember that Thursday on the porch when I told you about the trust? I said you were going to do something extraordinary. I meant it. I knew even then that you had the kind of strength that doesn't break. It bends, and it remembers. The trust is legally airtight. Howard has the original documents in his vault at 1247 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, Suite 601. If anyone contests it, he'll provide the full documentation proving I was of sound mind, not coerced, and fully aware of my decisions. I made him promise to wait until you needed him. I also set aside another account. Howard will transfer it to you when you turn 30. It's $127,000. I saved it from your grandfather's patent royalties. Your father doesn't know it exists. Malene doesn't know it exists. It's yours alone. Use it for something that makes you happy. Use it for something frivolous. Use it to build a life that doesn't require anyone's permission. Inside this envelope, you'll also find original trust documents with my signature and witness statements, medical records from Dr. Patricia Yoon, proving I was competent when I wrote the trust, a letter I wrote to Richard that I never sent, explaining why I chose to split the money equally despite his pressure, recordings I made on my phone of conversations where he tried to convince me to change the trust. I learned how to use the voice recorder just for this. You are not the disappointment he says you are. You are not less than your sister. You are exactly who I hoped you'd become, someone who doesn't need to steal or cheat or tear others down to prove her worth. I will always find you, little shadow. Even now. All my love, Gran Shah. I read it 4 times. Then I called Howard Lipinski. He answered on the first ring. Miss Vance, I've been waiting for this call for 3 years. She knew, I said. She knew exactly what would happen. Your grandmother was the smartest woman I've ever met. She prepared for every possibility. Would you like to come to my office? There's more. I went that afternoon. Howard was 72, kind eyes, a handshake that felt like a promise. He handed me a folder 6 inches thick. Your grandmother documented everything. Every conversation with your father. Every attempt he made to pressure her. She recorded 18 phone calls over 2 years. She saved emails. She even hired a private investigator to document Malene's business practices because she suspected something wasn't right. She knew Malene was committing fraud? She suspected. She couldn't prove it. But she wanted you to have the tools to protect yourself if it ever came to light. He handed me another envelope. The additional account, $127,000, as she specified. It transfers to you on your 30th birthday, but given recent events, I'm authorized to release it early if you'd like. I'll wait, I said. She wanted me to have it at 30. I'll wait. Howard smiled. She said you'd say that. I left his office at 4:47 p.m. with the folder under my arm and a safety deposit box key in my pocket. I drove to Glenwood Cemetery, found Gran's grave under the oak tree. The headstone was simple. Sarah Elizabeth Vance, 1945 to 2017, beloved grandmother. I sat on the grass. I found them, Gran. I found what you left me. I stopped them. The wind moved through the oak branches. Thank you for seeing me, for knowing I could do this. I stayed until the sun started setting. Then I went home. 6 months later, my life looks like this. I still live in the same apartment, still $1,100 a month, still in Arlington, but I painted the walls, bought real furniture, not Craigslist specials, hung photos, one of Gran on the porch swing, one of me in my Class A uniform at the Pentagon reception. I'm still Squad Commander Vance, still hunting supply chain ghosts. I got a commendation last month for identifying $4.2 million in diverted equipment. Julian's serving 8 years at a federal facility in Pennsylvania. Malene took a plea deal, 4 years, eligible for parole in 2. My father visits her every month. He hasn't contacted me once. I don't miss them. Last week, I bought a plant for my kitchen. Lavender. It smells like Gran's house. I named it Sarah. The trust is still sitting untouched. $340,000 at 33% annual growth. I'll use it eventually. Maybe for a house. Maybe for something Gran would approve of. But I don't need it to prove I'm whole. If you're watching this and you've ever been told you're not enough by people who should have protected you, I need you to understand something. Their cruelty isn't evidence. It's noise. You don't need anyone's permission to have value, but you do need to give yourself permission to walk away from people who treat your existence like a problem to solve. I stayed quiet for 28 years because I thought peace was worth the cost. But silence isn't peace. Silence is just the sound of your boundaries breaking. Gran taught me that. If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping yourself, type, "I chose myself," in the comments. Or if you're still deciding, type, "I'm still deciding." Both are brave. Both are valid. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Or